Hi, and welcome back to our next video. After the last two introduction videos, we will enter the app configurator today and start building our ERP system. During this video, I will build an item master application and we will get to know how to use the app configurator. We start this app from scratch, and besides some other features, we will learn how to connect another set of data by using the combo box control, and we will introduce the field validator. So let's get into it and open the configuration node. And to create a new app, we go to the apps menu, and the list we're getting is empty, not really surprising in a fresh workspace. And we create a new app by clicking new. And since we want to build an item master, we will call our app item, hit the create button, and we have the first entry in our apps list. There are already some information visible. We will see the last change date, and we will see the user who did that last change. We open our app by hitting the edit button in the front of the grid. The configurator screen is separated into two parts. On the left, the four main tabs for building apps, and on the right, the live preview. The most important tabs are app properties and structure, and these are the ones we're going to use in this video. While you need app properties mostly for the general settings of our app, the structure is the main app to create and change and add details around fields and functions. The JSON tabs allows us to see the generated JSON file. This file will be loaded by the brixxbox engine when starting the app, either in the menu or any other starting option, and the brixxbox engine will generate the app in that particular moment, which means any change you will do to an existing app will be live in the moment you save it, or you use the dev mode to test your change first. It is extremely rarely needed to open this tab. Everything you need can be done by the other three tabs. The permission tab allows you to set permissions for user roles on field level. It is actually the second level of user right management. The basic user rights, like the right to create data and change data, is set on the App Properties tab. We will tackle the user right management in an extra video. On the top right, we have a couple of buttons to help us with the design process, and we will get to learn them during this video. So let's start building our item master. We have a couple of options here on the App Properties tab, and the first thing we need to do when creating a new app, which will create data as well, we need to connect it to a master table, or we need to create that table. So we go to the master table section, hit add table. It asks us for a column prefix. For item, we choose ITM. A column prefix is very important. It makes the column unique within the database, so it's easier to handle in SQL statements or if you access the data later on with the external BI tool. So let's create it. And the table was created in the underlying database. We enter the same prefix in the mandatory ID prefix field, so we have the same naming convention even for non-table column fields. Let's leave app properties for now and go to the structure tab, and let's add our first field, the item number. And we're adding new controls by hitting the plus button on the top right. And we're getting the control properties menu. We can choose our control, and since we want our item number alphanumeric, we don't choose the num box control, which we have right here. We choose text box for alphanumeric values. We need to give it a control ID, and we start with our prefix and we call it number. To add the column to our table we previously created, we hit the database icon at the end of the field. And based on the control type we selected, it allocates a column type, text in our case, and we just hit create. And the column was added to our table. So right now it was also allocated to the data field right here. And we have now two columns in our item table. One is ID, which is mandatory and will be set by the brixxbox automatically. And we have our new table item number. The rest of the fields we leave for now. We hit OK, and our field was added. Actually, we forgot to give it a name, a label. So let's say number, and we have a field to enter item number. So next field will be the item name. So do the same again, choose text box control, ITM as a prefix, name, hit database icon, hit create, and give it a label. And we have our name field. So let's do a couple of more fields. Later on we want to add an item group. So that should be a selection. So we'll choose a different control. We choose combo box. Call that one item group ID. Label it. Create a database, the column in our table. And based on the control, it selects the column type. It will be in field since we will link the ID of the item group later on. Hit create. And we leave that for now. We come back to that field later. Create another one. Will be the item unit. Every item needs a unit. It will be also a selection. Call that one item unit ID. Create the column. Give it a label. And there you go. And then we want to have a checkbox to identify the item as a sales item. We call that one ITM is sales, and based on our control type checkbox, it chooses a column type bit. Create that one, call that one sales, and hit OK. And we also want to have the opposite, that will be procurement. We'll do that one again. ITM is procurement. Create the column. Okay, there we are. When building the structure of an app, you have to keep in mind that you do two things at once. Adding the required fields, aka columns, to our app and system, and at the same time we are creating the user interface. And since brixxbox is a web application, a few structure controls are needed to align the visible controls. First, and the one to start with, is a row. Well, let's add a new one. And let's choose a row. Don't need to give it a control ID as long as you don't want to do anything with it. So we just need it to align controls. So we move that one to the top, and we want to have a structure it. So we want to have number, name, item group, and unit on the left side and the two checkboxes on the right side. We achieve that by using the next control to structure the layout. That's form group. And now we have to enter the size tab. The brixxbox screen is separated into 12 columns, and that can be set for the different kind of devices like smartphone, tablets, and desktop PCs. So we choose to keep it simple. We're going for the desktop one, and we want to say, okay, since we have 12 columns available, we want to take half the screen for our first form group. So we say 6 right here, say okay, and then we'll move that below our row. And then we take the controls we want to have inside that form group, we just move them like that. So we already see kind of a change here. Let's take another form group for the two checkboxes. Also size, take 6. Move up and take the 2 controls. And we have them separated. So now I want to have the controls in a row, a vertical row. So I can go to settings of the first one, like number, and enter the size tab. So now it's similar as I have another 12 columns below our form group, and I can set the width for the control, so the actual field where I can enter data, and I can set the same for the label, like the name. If I don't enter anything for the label, it will be on top like we have it right now. But I want to have it in the front, so I'll choose 4 for the label, and the rest of the 12 that equals 8, I'll put it on the field. So, and I want to have that for every other field below that form group as well. So I hit apply size to all siblings, which will copy my size settings to every control which is below the same group, which will be in our case name, item group, and unit. So I'll apply that one, and we see already in our live preview below how the layout of these 4 fields just changed. So hit OK, and let's do the same quickly for our 2 checkboxes. And they are aligned as well. So next thing I want to have in my app is I want to have a description field below. So I'll add another row. There's a shortcut for row up here. So we can add a row right away. And to make a nice visible separation, I choose horizontal line. That will give me a line. And now below that line, I will add my what you see is what you get text edit field. It will be another column, so we call that one description. Create the column. And there's our field. Well, I want to have that full size, so let's go to size, set it to 12, and there you go. Now we have it full size. So let's save, and it's there, and it's actually usable right now. So we can create our first item. Save it, and there you go, we added it to the database. That brings me to another setting in app properties. So for the designing process, I can add a preview record ID right here, and since I just created a record, I just enter 1. That will be the first one in the table, and it will show me the app with the loaded set of data. So now let's make the app available for the users in the menu. So we have 2 options to create the menu. We can either create a form menu entry, which will call the app in the way it looks like on the right side, or we'll create a list menu entry and we will see a list of available items first. So we choose list menu, and the menu was created. Let's save that so we keep our preview record ID. And refresh our screen. And there we go. Now we have a new entry, or the first entry in our menu called apps. And when I call that one, I have list, and I see the item I just entered. I can hit the edit button and I'm right away in my app. So let's close that one. The name is not really nice, so we go to Configuration, open the menu application, and there we see the structure of the menu. I don't like the app names. Change that one to master data. And change that one to item. And we can select an icon for that. Actually, this field. This one. And we can also see the access to roles here for user roles later on when we come to the user right management. And here's the app type where I can choose it should be started in a form or a list mode. Hit OK, save it, and refresh my screen, and it's changed. So let's open our item. If I'm admin, I have this configuration button right here and can jump from here right into my config. And one thing I don't really like is the title. It's just item 1. So I can use the controls I created to adjust the title of my application. And go to App Properties. Here's the title field. And I want to have the item number and the item name. So I say add item number and add item name. Save it. And we see it already. There is the name and the number up here. And also close that one and open it again, and the app title is available. So back to the structure tab. When entering a new item, I want to make sure that the users punch in a number and a name. And I can do that this way, that I go to the control validator and say, okay, it's already pre-selected, not empty. There are a couple of other options. For example, if you have an email address, or if you want to make sure that it will be a EMI number, like the smartphone identification number, but we just want to have it not empty for now, so we say OK, and it gets that little red dot next to it, which makes it a mandatory field. I'll do the same for name. And there's another thing I want to do. I want to have a certain item number, similar to the one I just entered. So the first two should be letters, and then I want to have it followed by 4 numbers. So I can do that in the settings of my item number field. Here I can enter regex expression. So A to Z, and I want to have that for the first 2 fields. And then I want to have 0 to 9 available, and that should be for the following 4 fields. And it's saved. So let's go back to our list. Let's enter a new one. Both fields are mandatory. It's telling me that I have to follow a certain structure when entering my item number. And I'm calling it Samsung Galaxy. Sales and a procurement item. I want to change that one, so I cannot enter more than 4. I cannot enter letters here, so just allows numbers. Save. So next thing we want to do, we want to add an item group and a unit, and therefore we need to create 2 other apps. So let's go back to apps menu, create new, and we call that one item group. Open it, go to app properties, add a master table, call it ITGR as a prefix, create, so the master table is created, and let's add some fields. Actually just one field, which will be a text box, ITGR name, creates a column, name, and hit OK. Save that one, and let's add it to the menu. Change it to item group, and we want to have another section we call it system. Okay, put it like that, and we move the item group below that section. Refresh the screen, and we have a new section, and there's our item group app. Let's create a new item group, call the first one Apple, save, you can also hit plus here. Second one, let's call that one Samsung, and we save that. Open our item and go to the settings, because now we need to connect our item group. So by doing so, we go into the control, the combo box control, and there is a setting sub data source. So by open that one, it asks us for the data source type, and here we have a couple of options. We choose config, since we want to use another config as data source, and we choose item group, and I'll hit OK. And now I go to the settings of our item group control. And for combo box, I have two fields which are very important. It's a combo box key field, and this asks us what value of the item group table should be stored in the item table to connect them, and there will be ID. And the other one is what value do I want to see in my combo box when I open that drop down field. And there I want to see the name, which will be ITGR name. Let's hit OK, and we'll save that. And there are the two entries of our item group. Oh, let's connect it right here, save it, and it's added to our data. And can actually also mark our item as sales and procurement item. So we do the same for units. So open apps, create new, call that one unit, open it, go to app properties, create our table, UNT as a short for unit, create, table is created, go to structure, add the control type text box, UNT name, label, and creating the column, then create, hitting OK, save. So first unit is PC, save that right away from here, and let's go back to our item list, close all of that, open item list once more, go to our Samsung Galaxy. Here we need to connect the item group, which is Samsung. And go to the settings of our item. And now we connect the just created config with our item unit combo box control. So open the data source, choose config once more, choose the unit config. You can also test it here, so we can see what values are available. Right now we have 2 values available, for the ID 1, the unit PC. And if you go, there's an error right now. Up here you see the error messages. They come up because I forgot something, and because I forgot to connect the fields to the combo box control. So I go to the properties of my combo box control and I fill in the key field, which will be ID, and the name field, UNT name. So now the error message goes away and I can go to the item list once more, call my Galaxy cell phone, and now I set the unit. Okay, there's another control I want to introduce. That is a tab control to create tab pages. And we just choose tab control, enter it, and then we add another one to have our tab pages. Call that one for description. I want to put the description box be inside that tab. And I want to add another one where I will have my sales prices later on. Okay, now I move the description fields inside the tab page description, and now I have a tab control in here. We will fill the sales prices later on in another video when we come to build our sales order process. So we save that for now. And so we're getting to the finish of this video. I want to just add some more about app properties. There are a couple of options below here. We can activate the develop mode, we can activate the discussions, attachments, histories, and the concurrency control, so that just one user has the right to save changes, and the option show other users on the same record. It will tell me who is actually logging this record right now, and I'm able to request the ability to work on this record. So to activate a few of them, we need to go to the tables menu first. That's not connected at this moment, but probably a few weeks later on from when I'm recording this video. So we go to items, and here I have the option to add discussion. And I can also create an audit table. And we will add the concurrency control. So now back to our configuration. So I just did that so I can activate all of these functions here. So the discussion was needed to activate this option here. So now I can have postings about this specific set of data. Actually, I should change the size of my avatar. It's a bit big here. So let's close that one. Another option is attachments. So that gives me the opportunity to upload files specifically connected to that data set, and also create attachments out of applications like invoices or delivery notes. And email history will save all the sent emails out of that particular application. History is very important, so we can check who did changes to a particular set of data. So let's change that right now and go back to our item. And there's no unit yet. So if I change that to unit, save, and here I have my history button. If I open the record history, I can see, okay, I just updated the unit ID field from 0, from null to 1. Very helpful most of the time. And also concurrency control and show other users on the same record. Also as easy as the other ones to activate. But how they work, especially show you other users on the same record, will be content of another video. Last function for today is the history of the configuration itself. So by clicking the show history button, I can see what kind of changes have to be done to that particular configuration we're in, and who did that, and when did it happen. And so I can always roll back to a previous version. So that's it for today. I hope you got a good first impression about the app configurator and could get an idea what would be or what is actually possible with it. And within the next videos, we will take a deeper dive into the options, especially when we start building our sales order process.